night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. Welcome to chat night, we bring you good vibe, we shine on the light. We all over the world, chat night Africa. We all over the world, chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, the only place that we give you good vibe. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night, all over the world we are shining the light. Chat night Africa. Welcome to chat night.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Voices of Africa at Chat Night Africa. Let me start by thanking you for deciding to watch this broadcast. 20 years ago, he came into the United States with just $100 in his pocket. Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot worked several menial jobs, and today he's living the American dream. But unlike most successful immigrants, he decides to engage in a bullfight, run for Congress. And as we all know, politics can be very dirty in the sense that your opponents show you no mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to have a sizzling conversation with Congressman Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot. Stay tuned. Ladies and gentlemen, join me now in welcoming Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, candidate for Congress, on the platform. Congressman to be Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, thank you for accepting our invitation to come on Chat Night Africa.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to be here.
I have to say that when Chat Night Africa began in its very rudimentary ways, in its infancy, some 5 years ago, you were my first guest on the show. I appreciate that. I cannot forget that, sir.
I do remember that specific show, and it's very good to know how far you have come. I have seen you talk to tens of guests, if not hundreds of them already, and the view has expanded across this continent to Africa, Europe, and across the whole world. So congratulations for what you're doing.
We love Chat Night Africa. Keep watching Chat Night Africa.
Congressman to be Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, let's get into it. Politics in Africa, like in the United States, put aspiring actors in the glare of public scrutiny. Having worked so hard, why wouldn't you sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor?
That very good question. You know, I've had similar questions like this, and the way I answer it, there's several reasons why I am back on this journey. Yes, I could have sat and enjoyed a few years. I've worked 20 years in the IT industry and being an entrepreneur and an author as well. I could have done so, sit back and just relax. But the question I ask myself is, if those who built this country several hundreds ago sat back and relaxed, you and I would not be driving on the roads that we're driving on today. Those who built airplanes, if they sat back and relaxed, we would not be flying across continents in few hours. We would not enjoy the freedom that this country, those who came before us, had fought for. And those who defended this country, and some of them died for this country, so you and I can enjoy certain things that wouldn't have happened. And so I asked myself, before I leave the planet, what is it that I can do for the next generation of folks to enjoy when their own time is here? I'm also doing this because I want to be the voice of the ordinary folks on mainstream America, those who live and struggle below the poverty line, and those who are struggling to uplift themselves into the middle class, which constitutes a great majority of those in this county, this state, and across this country. And so, yes, I cannot sit back and relax.
That is audacious. Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, you are running for Congress in District 4 in Maryland. What areas in the state of Maryland make up the congressional district?
So the district I'm running for is District 4 of Maryland, and it covers most, or if not the entire Prince George's County in the state of Maryland. And just so you know, PG County is the largest district in the entire state. It constitutes of almost 1 million people, and it cuts across some of other counties like Montgomery County and Anne Arundel County. Now, for the folks who are wondering if they are part of this district and if they can or cannot vote, if you go to my website, gabrielforcongress.com, and it will take you to the district map where you could put in your address where you live. It will tell you if you are part of District 4 or not. So but generally speaking, we cover 95 or more percent of Prince George's County in the state of Maryland.
These people who will be voting for you during the elections, primaries, and hopefully the general elections. Now, but there are people outside your congressional district watching this program and who will watch later on and who are asking this question. Why should they be interested in listening to you on Chat Night Africa this evening?
Well, I think it's important that
they wish you to win.
I think it's important that they listen to me because I would be their voice, a voice that's been missing for so long and has been said by too many that we cannot have a voice in Congress, especially from someone that looks like me or someone with a background like myself or with a last name that nobody could easily pronounce. I think that they should listen to me because it's about time we have a representation in Congress, and especially that representation in Congress should be someone like me who has experienced and lived through poverty and earn a minimum wage, raised by parents who didn't have a chance to see the four walls of an elementary school, but believe that their son could be different, believe that their son could be anything he can be if he puts in mind to it. I think they should listen to me speak today, and also vote for me into Congress, because I have experienced what a majority of folks in this district, in this state, and in this country have experienced, which is, earning a minimum wage, struggling to earn a living and pay their mortgages and send their own kids to school, and also a good majority of the folks in this district are people who've abandoned their families and their life in their own countries and braved the jungles of South America and the high seas and the Atlantic Ocean and come here to better themselves and also better the life of their own families. I would be that person to represent them because I understand exactly what they've been through in life and are still going through today, unlike the folks who are already in Congress, whose friends are mostly millionaires and billionaires and have connections in Wall Street and have no connections with the guys down here on Main Street.
You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa, and my guest today is candidate for Congress, Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, running for District 4 in the state of Maryland. Mr. Njinimbot, what have you identified as problems you are running to solve?
Good question. There is a series of issues that this county, the state, and even across the country are facing right now as we speak. But I've spoken to tens of thousands of citizens of this district, and here's what they tell me. Prince George's County, a decade or so ago, was one of the most affluent counties, Black counties across, in the whole country. In fact, it used to be termed the Black bougie heaven, this district. But over the years, that has completely changed because now this district ranks the second when it comes to crime in the entire state of Maryland. When it comes to our education, our children are struggling at an 8% proficiency in math, a 24% proficiency in reading, and a 76% proficiency when it comes to our graduation rate. In fact, that number went down from 79% from 5 academic school years ago. And when it comes to our educational ranking, we are still at the bottom 50%. Now, this status quo must change. And I know that this country has enough resources to take care of its citizens, its students, and teachers to make sure that we can have better kids that come out of our school systems, at least should graduate up to 10%, up to 100%. So these are the issues that this district is facing right now. And I know that the folks who represent this district in Congress do not understand. They think they do, but they don't fully understand what the district, the folks who are below the poverty belt are experiencing. I know so because I moved to the country, like you said in your introduction, with just $100 on me. And I started off working at a seafood restaurant. I got promoted to taking waiting tables and also bussing tables. I became a security guard, and I used to go from restaurant to restaurant picking bottles and trying to sell them for 5-10 cents. I became an entrepreneur over the years, and I also became an IT engineer after taking a series of computer exams. Now, my story is to tell you how things are possible in this country if we put our minds to it. If our politicians can put their self-interest on the side, they can make these things better for our children. We can increase the proficiency of our kids from 8% to 100% if we have serious discussions about this. It's absurd that the most affluent country on earth, their kids are still struggling with an 8% in reading, in math, 24% in reading, and not even all of them could graduate from school. It is absurd that the teachers who sacrifice everything they can to make sure that the next generation of congressmen and teachers and business owners and even the presidents of this country, they still have to use pocket money to buy school supplies for the kids in their own schools. It's not like this country don't have the money, don't have the resources. Yes, we do have them. And what I'm going to be fighting for is to make sure that these numbers actually change from 8% to 100%, from 24 to 100%, and from 76 to 100%. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that this is going to be done in one day because the task in front of us is enormous. It's not very easy, but it's something that we have to talk about from day one and talk about it all the time to make sure that it resonates into folks' ears, especially members of our constituents, so we all can come together and find out a perfect solution for the problems that we are facing in the county, the state, and across the country.
Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, how do you respond to anyone who wonders whether you have the pedigree to be a congressman?
I would say that for far too long, and it's been said by too many, that folks like us who came from a foreign country, from Africa to be specific, with a very difficult last name and with no money behind us, should not run for Congress. And what I would say is that that is the conventional wisdom, that you have to have friends who are rich, well connected, and also have friends in the halls of Congress. But what folks forget to understand is that this election is not about me. It's about us. It's about everyone in the district who are reeling every day and earning a minimum wage and can't even pay their own mortgages as we should in this day in America. It's about the immigrants who come to this country hoping that one day they could make their life better for themselves, earn a living, buy their own houses, live the American dream, and someday run for Congress like I'm doing today. It's about our nurses who work 16-hour shifts, not because they want to or they have to or they like to, but because they have to save money to, save money for their retirement and take a vacation and also help their own kids go to school. It's about our veterans who fought for, some of them bled for, and some of them died for this country and came back from war from Afghanistan and Iraq and other places. And you still see them hanging around the streets holding signs that says, I can't afford to eat today, or I don't even have a place to stay. So these are the reasons why I should run for this office. This is the reason why I should be the one representing the folks who have no connections, just like myself, in the halls of Congress or in the halls of Wall Street. So my response to them is that the conventional wisdom is now changing, it's now shifting, because most folks have realized that name recognition and those whose name is known have been there for far too long and nothing has changed. So they understand that we cannot elect the same old players and play the same old political games and expect that the results are going to be different. So it's time for us to have a new energy, a new perspective of young folks and who are ready to do their job and willing to do their job despite the fact that they don't have the money. And I've seen it in this campaign. I've seen it in the fundraising that we've done so far. It's amazing how much money we've raised in a very short time. And I can tell you that with that same energy, yes, we will go to Congress when it's time for the election.
You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. I am now going to open the phone line to the studio for people, anyone across the United States who wants to ask you a question. My number is 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. Dial the number and you will be asking candidate for Congress, Mr. Njinimbot Gabriel, your question, not through me. Mr. Njinimbot, you have identified the myriad of problems people in District 4, the congressional district you're running for, are facing. The question I have for you, sir, is what's the tool you have in your toolbox to resolve those problems? I give you one or two problems you identified yourself. PG County, Prince George's County school system is at 50% at the bottom, 50% bottom in the state. Math students are performing at 8%, reading 24%, graduation 76%. That's serious. And people who have children are hoping, immigrants and non-immigrants alike, that when they send their children to school, they should be able to graduate, perform like children in other parts of the country. So what tools do you have in your toolbox to resolve the problems that you yourself are cognizant of?
Thank you. Look, there's 209 public schools in the district. And I took it upon myself to visit some of these schools, or if not all of them, by the time it's election time, just because I wanted to understand fully what's the cause of these issues that's plaguing the entire district. Now, uh, across the state, or across at least the district, our schools are so overpopulated, it's not even funny. I'll give you an example of one of the middle schools in and around the city in which I live in Laurel. That school was not designed or built for 1,300 students. There's 1,300 students in that school, and not enough resources or teachers to take care of these students. And that's the same issue with almost, if not all, the 209 public schools in the district. Now, I know that this government is not poor. I know that the government does not lack the money, does not lack the resources to build more schools and make sure that the students, the school environment is conducive for students to learn and for teachers to teach. And how do I know so? Because over the past 2 decades, the United States of America, the taxpayers like you and I, spend $300 million in one day in Afghanistan. $300 million in a day. And if you break that down, it's as if the United States of America could give the 40 million people in Afghanistan $50,000 a day, and there will be still some money left. You could break it even further down that the United States government spent $800 billion in direct war fighting cost. 800 billion would it be? Okay, and all this money, if we take just a fraction of it, a fraction of the money that was spent in Afghanistan, and just so you know again, if you combine the amount of money that the United States government spent to keep the Taliban away, it's so much money that if you combine it, it will be more than the net worth of Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk's, Bill Gates, and 30 more billionaires, richest people in this country combined. That's how much money you and I spend, or Uncle Sam spent, or the taxpayers spend to keep the Taliban away. With that kind of money, if we begin from that standpoint, if the government can reroute just a portion of that money into the PG County public schools, we would have an excellent educational system. Now, money alone cannot solve the problems that we have in our school systems, but it plays a significant role. Parents have to take that responsibility as well, to be there for their children and follow up on them and check if they go to school at all, and if when they come back from school, they are doing their homework. That's the other part. The community as a whole have to take part in making sure that our educational system can be better than what it is right now. When it comes to crime, PG County ranks the second when it comes to crime. And I've spoken to police officers and law enforcement agencies and people in the community, and the answer is always that there's not enough police officers on the street. But I think that to reduce crime is not by just having enough police officers on the street. If we create more jobs, more openings for people to find something to do, or like after school programs, if we could close down or rebuild all the homeless houses, abandoned houses in the district, it could create jobs. If we go from street to street and take off all the old telephone booth that was installed 2 decades ago and replace them with electric car charging stations, it would create jobs to a lot of people. So there is a lot that can be done. And like I said before, it's not going to be done in a day. But I can assure you that with the right set of folks in Congress, people who understand what's happening in these schools at the grassroots level, not at 10,000 feet or in Cloud 9, if they start talking about these issues and keep their personal interests on the side and stop taking money from special interest groups and lobbies and big corporations, these issues can be resolved, because we're the United States of America, where we have solutions to all kinds of problems. We send people to the moon. We're planning on sending folks to Mars. We help folks when fighting wars overseas. Why can't we use the same tools we have, including the one that I have, and I know many people have, to solve the problems that we have here at home?
You just talked about crime in PG County, and I have to say that crime is in the uptick across the United States. I'm talking about gun violence, particularly homicides going up, going through the roof. You're talking about putting more police officers in the streets. There are people who believe that more guns is the answer. More guns or more police officers, sir?
So when you say more guns,
and I ask you, this is significant because the Second Amendment of the United States to the United States Congress Constitution says that American citizens have the right to bear arms. So more guns as the answer, or more police officers to fight crime?
Well, it's a combination of a series of things that we can use to solve, to fight crime in a district and across the state. Number one is to make sure that people have something to do for themselves. Because if you look at it critically, those who go out and break into cars and houses, if you give them something productive to do, most of them will rather do that than, go break into somebody's car, which could, send them to jail for years. Folks don't want to go to jail unless they're ones who, really love to go to jail because it's free housing and free food and free everything. But most reasonable constituents or members of the public, they want to live a reasonable life, a decent life, and stay out of jail and live, raise a family and raise their own kids and make life better for themselves. Now, to solve the issue of crime, more guns on the streets, especially illegal guns, creates more problems than it's solving, as you know. And the statistics have shown that over the years, they've been increasingly more illegal guns on the streets, or if not illegal, it's very easy for folks to apply for a gun license and get it because of the way the gun regulations in the country is very, very, very loose. Now, I tell you this as someone who's been through or have applied for licensing and permits to own it for a business, and also a license to own a firearm. These two licenses, you could easily, within 3 months, get a license to own a firearm. But when it comes to applying for a license to own a liquor license, for example, it could easily take you 15 months to do that. And so the laxity of gun regulations in the country, which is for the most part attributable to the fact that members of Congress, because they collect money from the NRA, tend to support gun rules that are more loose than other folks who don't collect money from the NRA to support their legislation. And I say so because even after the fact that people who have mental issues, who buy 1 or 2 guns in a couple of months, go into a mall or into a school or anywhere where there's a crowd of people and massacre a lot of people, these regulations have barely changed. In fact, every time there's a mass shooting in America, gun sales go all the way up. So to keep crime off the streets, we need police officers, good police officers, not the bad ones, good police officers. We need community involvement. We need after-school programs. We need jobs, because if there are jobs, people, not saying that nobody's going to commit a crime, but there's a tendency that most people would rather go to work than go do gang violence and break into stores or break into cars in order to steal a couple of pennies.
You are watching Chat Night Africa, and the broadcast is Voices of Africa. My name is Divine Chamukong. I am anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Mr. Gabriel Njinimbo, to get to the general elections, you first have to win the primaries. Your opponent is a former PG County prosecutor, Mr. Glenn Ivey. He has name recognition you don't have. Mr. Njinimbo, I have to say you are taking on a Goliath. What arguments have you for the voters to line up behind you instead of someone whose name they know and know so well before yours?
Great question. Look, I've spoken to tens of thousands of members of these constituents. I made 200 phone calls in one day. And I can tell you, a lot of the folks out there don't even know who Mr. Glenn Ivey is. A lot of them. Even though he did win the election last year. But I can tell you this. When you speak to the folks in this district, what they care about the most is not name recognition. They care about someone who is passionate about what change is going to be. They care about someone who understands what the folks on the streets are going through. They care about someone who understands that there's senior citizens in houses who've retired and still cannot afford to stay home because they did not save enough for pension. They care about someone who came from poverty and understand what it means to earn a minimum wage. They care about someone who has children in the public schools in the district and understand what it means for their kids to possibly not graduate, or even if they graduate from high school, stand the higher risk of not going to college. They care about someone who is in the community talking to the folks each and every day, someone who understands the plight of a family or a military family who sent their kid to fight for war and came back with just one leg, with two arms amputated. They care about someone who can passionately tell them and come up with a strategy and can better articulate how they're going to solve the problems that's coming up in the future. For example, issues about the environment, issues about our schools, issues about our neighborhoods, issues about immigrants. And I can tell you from the standpoint of being as an immigrant, someone who left everything from home at their home and came to the country and struggled to fit themselves in a society that is not so easy to live in. These are the kind of issues that folks in the district and entire constituency worry about. They're not concerned about the fact that someone who has a name recognition has been there, because the facts is that, and the statistics have shown that we've had folks with name recognition who've been in that same type of office for decades and nothing has changed. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at the history of Prince George's County, 10 years back, when Wayne Curry was county exec, Prince George's County was top number one in the country when it comes to being a county of affluence, especially for Black people. But in the past few decades, when Mr. Glenn Ivey was state prosecutor, we still had a high level of crime. When Donna Edwards, who was a very well recognized and well known name in Congress, we still had issues with the county. At this point in time, Prince George's County has lost its status as one of the richest Black counties in the country to Charles County, which is a neighboring county. In 2019, 56% of folks in this district moved out to neighboring counties like Howard County, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel County, and the neighboring counties because of what's been happening in the district. And this all has been happening under the leadership of folks who's been there with their name recognized over and over again, and the results has not been different. The folks understand that it is time for something different, time for something new. And I have that energy, and I think that I could do this job because I have shown by walking from school to school and talking to the teachers and talking to the students and superintendents, walking to small businesses and talking to them, because I own a small business too, and I know what it means to need help from folks who are above us. The rule of government is to help or protect its citizens when they cannot protect themselves. Increasingly, with the name recognition of those who are there right now, not much has changed. And if you look even in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, you have folks who've been there for 40, 50 years. And if you go to their respective constituencies, you still have folks reeling when it comes to education, when it comes to safety, when it comes to our environment, when it comes to the senior citizens having the benefits that they should have, when it comes to our veterans coming back and receiving the benefits that we promised them that they were going to have, and they didn't have it. So I'm not too terrified or concerned about the fact that I'm not known, But by the time the primaries are here, if we do what we must do, and which the constituents and people in my network and the folks who understand the urgency of change, yes, my name will be recognized by the time the primaries are here.
And Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot will be right back on the platform. You are watching Voices of Africa on Chat Night Africa. Let's give him a few 1 or 2 minutes to maybe sip a glass of water before we continue the conversation. Stay tuned. Voice to the world. Chat Night Africa, Africa's voice to the world. You will always be at the center of what we do at Chat Night Africa. That is why we have 3 programs running on the platform: Family Matters, Voices of Africa, and Healthline. Unfortunately, Facebook is not inclined to ours publish the topics we carry and how we choose to discuss them. I'm therefore asking you to run to YouTube or the internet, www.chatnightafrica.net, once our shows hit the airwaves. There you will watch the shows uninterrupted. We fiercely believe in the independence of journalism and will not betray the trust you have in us under any circumstances. Let me take this opportunity to thank those who have continued to deploy their resources so that this platform look the way it is. Dazzling. Meanwhile, if you want to support our operations, this venture, you can reach us at chatnightafrica@gmail.com or simply call me. Bread and butter, kitchen table, and pocketbook issues will remain front and center of what we do on this platform. Thank you. My name is Divine Chamukon. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, join me in welcoming Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot on the platform. Mr. Njinimbot, a large chunk of the Congressional District 4 in Maryland is made up of immigrants, especially Africans. Now, it's true that you're running for everybody in that district, but also you are a Cameroonian American of African descent. So you cannot take that identity of yours away from who you are. All politics are driven by interest. People are going to go to vote for you depending on what is in it for them. So the question, why should immigrants go in that large numbers to vote for you? What will they benefit? What will they get? What is the benefit they get by voting for you?
The very first benefit I will tell you is the fact that they have no representation right now in Congress. They have no representation right now in Congress. And the very fact that 22% of the folks in PG County are immigrants, constitute the immigrant population, with no voice in Congress does not make sense. And when I win this election, it would not only make history, but it would make more sense that immigrants do now finally, as hardworking as they are in all the professions in this country, nursing, lawyers, doctors, even firefighters and police officers, teachers, entrepreneurs, authors. You can name them. This list can go on and on. It would finally make sense that I will be their voice in Congress. I would take their issues in Congress. And there's nobody who could take the immigrant issue or articulate immigrant issue or immigration issues in Congress more than someone who is an immigrant. Yes, I know there's a lot of very intelligent folks in Congress who understand foreign relations or international relations from different perspectives from different countries. But ask me, I will tell you what it means to grow up in a small town in West Africa, Cameroon, from parents who never had a chance to see the four walls of an elementary school, but struggled to raise 19 of us, and also taught us that promise that if you put your mind into anything you want, you can achieve it. And they did so by also supporting us with everything they had. They sacrificed every single thing they could to make sure that we have some kind of an education. And with the help of other people, I was able to come to this country, the best country in the world, the United States of America. Though it was just $100, I made my way up through from the restaurant, through security guard, to taking computer classes and becoming an IT engineer. Went to law school, now running for Congress, have a family, and also an entrepreneur. My story, just like the stories of all immigrants in this country, including Cameroonians, is to tell you what's possible about America, is to tell you how America can change us, how America has helped us. But when we having the discussion about Cameroonians and immigrants in Congress, in the Senate, even in the White House, someone who understands and has experienced what an immigrant does experience when they come to this country has to be on the table. And that's going to be me.
Well, I was reading a book on politics to say if you are not on the table, you could be the menu. I appreciate your audacious, your audacity to challenge, to face the odds, to run for US Congress. Mr. Njinimod, we know how polarized the Congress of the United States is. Sometimes and many times, oftentimes, there's a stalemate. If you go to Congress, what's the strategy you will use to deliver the bacon to your constituents?
Well, that's a fundamentally good question. Now, one reason why there's a lot of dysfunction in Congress is because of personal interest. And you've seen occasions where people get booted out or people get kicked out of the committees that they're in, not for other reasons, but political and selfish reasons. Now, if folks in Congress were to keep all these reasons aside and continue working for the interests of the people that elected them into Congress in the first place, the level of dysfunction would be less. Now, I plan on being someone who is going into Congress to work for the folks, not just for those who elected me into office, but for everyone in this district, because I understand that the folks in the schools, in the hospitals, in the senior citizen home, that must be represented in this district, whether they elected me or they voted for me or not, because that's what the role of a representative is. So I plan on working across the aisle with folks in the Republican House and also in the Democratic House. But then for this to happen effectively, our personal interests must be pushed to the side. And the interests of the American people, the citizens of this district, must be of top priority. And that's why my campaign is not funded by any World Bank or Wall Street, not World Bank, Wall Street, or the NRA or all these special interest groups or lobbyists. My campaign is a strictly 100% people powered campaign, and you see with the $5, $10, $100 that we get from people from all walks of life across the country And that's what I'm going to be fighting for. Those are the people that I care for, and those are the ones that I'm going to represent.
A Nigerian social critic I interviewed here, Mr. Ed Okpa, said, and I quote, Africans are present in the United States, but without a presence. By this, he said, he meant that we largely believe in 2 jobs, 3 jobs, go on vacations, and don't care about politics as much. How do you address this?
Well, I wouldn't say so much that they do not care. The system of this country is not designed to be very easy, especially for immigrants, which explains part of the reason why folks do 3 to 4 jobs in some cases, or if they have one job, they work 16 to 18-hour shifts just because they need more money to pay their mortgages, pay their car notes, or even food to eat, and also make sure that the kids do go to school. And I've seen this because if we cannot say that they do not care just about politics, because I have been to PTSA meetings in several different schools, a school with a population of 1,500, and there are 6 parents in that came to the meeting. And I've asked this question before, what is happening? And I try to reach out to a lot of the parents in the morning when they're dropping off the kids from school to find out exactly what's going on. Life in America is not very easy. And so to become a good parent, a real parent, by making sure you attend PTSA meetings and also be able to participate in politics takes a whole lot. And I'm not saying that or encouraging the fact that folks are not getting really involved in politics, but there's a lot of reasons why they do. The other reason why most folks, and I've made tens of thousands of calls already, and I haven't been able to reach out to or get many Africans on the phone calls that I made reaching out to constituents. But I can also guarantee you that now that they see that one of their own is running for this office and is going to be their voice, they will come out. And I see this because in this campaign, in my fundraising, there's a lot of folks who've never been interested in politics before, but now they're very involved and they're volunteering. They're just waiting for me to tell them when it's time for them to come out and participate in politics. So Mr. Ed Okpa might be right, but I think that dynamic or that paradigm is all going to shift between now and April of next year. The other reason why I would tell you that most folks are disgruntled with politics is because money drives politics. And a lot of the folks have looked around and say, you know what? The conventional wisdom is that if I'm not rich, I don't have a friend who can donate $1 million to my campaign, I'm not going to participate. And it's not just Africans or immigrants. There are folks, African Americans, Asians, Latinos, who have given up on politics because the same old players are in Washington, D.C., doing the same things over again. And their cry from the local folks is not being heard in Washington. And the tendency is that most folks would just be cynical and just give up. But I'm telling you that this whole thing is going to change from now on. And we've seen it in Colorado Springs, where one Nigerian is the mayor of Colorado Springs. We've seen it in Minnesota, where a Somalian is in Congress. And so I think Cameroon is going to be the next big thing and next thing on the news.
I asked you this question at the very beginning of this broadcast. I'm going to ask it again. There are people who are watching you who are not in your congressional district. Why should they support you? Somebody in California, somebody in New York, in West Virginia, in Virginia, they see you, they like you. Tell them why they should support you too as you run for Congress.
Well, I think that the only thing that separates the guy in California and the one in North Carolina and West Virginia is just the state lines. But the issues that the folks at grassroots level in California, in West Virginia, and other parts of the country face is no different from what the issues that the immigrants, the teachers, the nurses, the construction workers, the correctional officers in different states in the country are facing, and they have the same set of folks who are in their own constituent representing them in Congress, who've been there for 40 years, 50 years, and doing the same things over and over again. And the folks in California are seeing the same results, that the results has never been different. So if the guy in California or West Virginia or any part of the country is watching a young guy from Cameroon who came here looking skinny and hungry with just $100 on him, been through the system, been through the stages in life, and is now running for United States Congress, they see how things can change. They see what's possible about America. And they would also see that the things that have been conventional, 8% in math, 24% in reading, 76% in graduation rate, or a dirty neighborhood or crime, if the right folk in District 4 in Maryland could be sent to Congress, it could energize the guy in California to send a donation or maybe even sign up a paper to run for office in California, which is my expectation, that once I break the glass ceiling, that guy in California who thought he couldn't do anything because he's from Cameroon or from Nigeria or from some other part of the world, which is supposedly not or does not fit the profile of someone who should be running for office or for Congress, will pick up a clipboard and a pen and paper and run for office. And they could also send me a $5 donation from California because of the dream that they see coming true.
We'll come to the donations and how people can support you. Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, candidate for the Congress of the United States, you're running for office. It was Barack Obama who said political office doesn't change people. It only reveals the true nature of people. And I agree with him that if you want to know the real character of somebody, give the person academic power, physical power, financial power, or the political power you're seeking to have. I have known you, Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, for many years as a very, very humble somebody, infectiously humble. You own businesses, and somebody comes to your business place, you're not pulling the weight all around as a CEO, which is what many people would do. What is the guarantee that when you have political power, the everyday Joe that you are won't change?
So, and as you rightly say, you know better. And I would say for those who do not know me, I'm not surprised by leadership, or I'm not surprised by success. I've held leadership positions in the community for years, and I have left leadership positions voluntarily without anyone pushing me out or coercing me to leave. I have been asked to take up leadership positions which are more powerful than the ones I left, and I chose not to. And like you said, I've owned a good number of small businesses, and I'm not surprised by success. I'm not the most successful, but I'm not concerned by surprise. I grew up from a very humble beginning, and where I am at today is because of a series of helping hands that have pushed me to where I am at right now. It is in my DNA to want to help and see other people grow. And you cannot see other people grow by trampling on them or pulling your shoulders left and right as a CEO or congressman. As a matter of fact, in Congress, your number one responsibility is to serve. And I do that today at my own business place. That's why if you come to my business place, I don't mind mopping the floor. I don't mind pulling up the trash. I don't mind serving folks. And I think that in Congress, it will actually reveal the true person which I am, and with the powers bestowed on me by the people, a lot more people will benefit from what I could do to them.
Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, you come across as very brilliant, vibrant, smart. likable. I have to say that. Those who watch you can testify.
Well, thank you.
How should they support you? They say, hey, this is a great guy. Somebody's now saying, I live in New York, I live in Idaho, I live in Iowa, but I've got to support this gentleman. How did they go about doing it?
Thank you. So before I go into how folks can support me, let me say a few things about campaign financing. Before I got into this audacious journey, I did not realize how expensive this can be. Now, it takes an average congressional run $1.5 million. As a matter of fact, my opponent, who is in Congress right now, spent $1.5 million to win the last election. $1.5 million. And I also know so because I have raised some of the money and I've spent some of it to keep the campaign going and the fundraising going. It's not very cheap at all. And that also explains why folks don't get involved in politics, because it is a full-time job to run for office and work and do the same things that ordinary folks in America do. It's not very easy. And so that's why
You are watching Voices of Africa. Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot just got disconnected. I hope he returns momentarily. Before he does return, let's have a little video of Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, and I'll be right back. You are watching Voices of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, once more, let's welcome Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot on the platform. This is a live broadcast, so things do happen. Yes, you were talking about campaign financing, and yes, you go on.
Yeah, I think we got cut off at the point where I was trying to tell folks that I do need your help. For us to be represented in Congress does not come cheap. And so I want to use this opportunity to tell all the folks watching out there that look, $5, $10, $15, $20 is needed so that we can make this campaign work. We need this help in order to sustain this campaign just throughout the end of the year and up to the primaries. Otherwise, all what we need to get done, everything you want to see different, everything you want to see change, if you want your voices to be heard and represented at Capitol Hill, that is not going to work if we cannot sustain the campaign. So if you go to GabrielForCongress.com and click on the donate button and donate whatever you can. Now, I know there's folks out there who live in the district that are willing to also volunteer to make phone calls, knock on doors, or distribute flyers, and also come to, do certain things to spread the word. Please do so as much as you can. Go to Gabriel, to the website, gabrielforcongress.com, and fill out the volunteer form and make sure that you leave your information on what you could do for us, and someone's going to reach out back to you. Now, in the next coming months, we will also have Meet the Candidates. For example, we have one that's coming up on Sunday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Buena Vista Ballroom, 8844 Washington Boulevard. Please come out there and meet the candidate. I'm going to do is also sign a couple of books for those of you who want to read one or all 5 of the books I published. And we'll be looking forward to hearing you. But please spread the word. And I know there's a lot of people sharing it out there already and spreading the information out. But yes, keep doing that, folks. I'm so happy. I'm grateful. I'm energized, and I'm ready to fight for you. Please don't stop spreading the word. Keep going. Let's go, guys. Let's get to work.
And in the United States, your vote is your weapon.
We love Chat Night Africa.
And my name is Divine Chamukong. I am anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C., metropolitan area. Let me tell you this. If you belong to WhatsApp groups, and I know you do, share this broadcast. Share it. Everybody, hit the share button. That's one way to carry Mr. Njinimbot's messages across. You realize that this wasn't a body chat over a bottle of beer. I went hard after him so that he can actually express himself adequately, so that he can tell you what is in it for you. That's why I framed my questions the way I did. Mr. Njinimbot, before we go, what's your last word? What should people remember about you coming on the platform Chat Night Africa today?
Thank you. What I would say before we go is that people should understand that this election is not about me. It's about all of us. It's about all of us who need to have a representation in the United States House of Representatives. It's about all of us whose voice have not been heard for a very long time. It's about our students, our children who are in school struggling to earn an education and struggling to see that tomorrow they could be someone as well, someone who could come from nothing and run for office, an office as high as the United States president. It's not about me. It's about our nurses, our janitors, our DJs, and people from all walks of life, people below the poverty belt. This is about all of us. It is about time we no longer settle for the status quo. We can do better than the politicians in Washington, those who take money from Wall Street, from special interest groups, from lobbies, from big corporations can do. We could do better than they've been doing for us in the past decade. Folks like you, like myself, is or are the ones supposed to be in Congress representing all grassroots working family mainstream Americans. That time is now. This is our time. We should use this opportunity and sacrifice what we can, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going in there not for myself or for my family, but I'm going there for you. I want to be your voice. I want to be the voice of those immigrants who left everything behind, came to this magnificent mosaic that is America to make life better for themselves and for their children and for their families and for the community at large. I'm the one who's going to represent those veterans who still in 2023 and hanging around street corners and interstate highways and bridges on frigid winter days and hot summer days with no food to eat and no place to stay when they fought for and bled for, and some of them died for this country. I am the one who's going to be the voice of all the nurses and correctional officers who fall asleep when they're driving from work because they worked so hard and for so long for less pay. I want to be the voice of all these teachers who sacrifice everything they've had for the next generation of teachers and doctors and lawyers and firefighters and police officers and congressmen and the president of this country. I will be that voice that would tell Capitol Hill how hard you work, that you should not spend your money. You should not spend the little money you make to buy school supplies for our children when we finance wars in trillions of dollars and spend billions of dollars in actual war money, war costs, and fighting wars overseas, when right behind our backyards, we are wallowing in debt, in poverty, when we have the money and the resources in 2023.
We
I will
have
be that voice of yours.
We have somebody on the line. Please, as you respond, put off or turn down the listening device where you are. Hello, good evening. This is Chat Night Africa, and you are listening to Mr. Gabriel Ginimot, candidate for Congress. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Divine Chamukon, thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I have a question for Congressman to be Mr. Gabriel Ginimot. I don't want it to sound like a broken record, but we've heard this before. It's about us, it's for the less privileged and all that. So what I want to find out from Congressman to be, of course, is somebody that I know very well, somebody that I support, somebody that I trust, but I want to find out from him what is he going to do different from the other people, because I mean, each time that people are running for positions, they tell us same stories and all that. So what has he for us that is proving to us that he is going to be different? He's not going to be like same politicians that we have out there.
Would you like to disclose your identity, or you want to remain anonymous, sir?
No, I can do that. My identity is Mr. Tibila Roland, alias Bar for Basic One Bila.
Did you get a question, Mr. Gabriel Ginimot?
I sure did. And thank you for that question.
And what's your answer?
And thank you for that question, Mr. Roland. And, you know, what is different about my campaign is that I'm already doing what most politicians don't do. I'm talking to the citizens, not through campaign ads or TV ads or radio ads. I'm talking to the folks one-on-one. And if you go back and look at my track record, I've always been a community person. I've always been a community leader. I've always been someone who I walk my talk. And that's not going to be too different from when I get into Congress. Because my passion from the past, historically, has been giving back. If you go to YouTube and look at my videos, you would see the times when I went to Africa and visited kids in schools and patients in hospitals and churches. And I had no intention of running for politics at all. So it is in my DNA to deliver what I'm telling you I would do. And you can see that that's going to be possible by simply looking at my track record as a community leader, as a citizen, as a neighbor. That is going to be done. I can promise you that.
Wow, that is a beautiful, brilliant.
And I also want to add that prior to this time, I have participated in schools on career days just to empower and inspire other children and teach them the importance of education. And so I think that with a megaphone in Congress, that's going to be even better.
Guess what? When I look at you and the way you approach politics, there isn't much difference from the way Barack Obama did. He did it and he succeeded. I'm going to give it maybe 5 more minutes for people. Anybody who wants to dial in, the number is 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. Time for me to, while I wait for any last 2 phone calls, he's saying that he has a follow-up. Yes, you can dial in 240-603-7367. He just sent me a text that he has a follow-up question. Yes, please dial my direct number, not WhatsApp. While we wait for that, and the phone call is coming in. Yes, hello.
Yes, yes, Mr. Divine, can you hear me?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this is a follow-up question to my gentleman, Mr. Congressman to be Mr. Gabriel Ginimot. Now, considering the fact that the Congress is not an independent. I mean, it is an independent body, but you just as an individual, I don't think that you are able to make that decision or decisions by yourself. It's supposed to be a collective work and all that. Now, what I want to find out from you, how convincing or how do you think that you'll be able to talk, some of your colleagues, once you've been elected, how do you think that, or what are the strategies that you think that you put in place to be able to bring your colleagues on board to look at your vision or to see your vision through?
Your answer.
That's actually a great question. In Congress, as you probably know, is that on the Democratic side of the House, there's a lot of folks in there who support the kind of vision I have for the district. There's a lot of progressives in progressive caucus in the House who support women's rights, tuition-free education. They support increase in minimum wage and so on. So most of the time, you need more of these folks in the House to be able to pass these bills. And sometimes some of these folks can't because they've taken money from special interest groups and lobbyists and all these folks, and they're not able to openly or support the cause of ordinary folks in this country. Now I'm going there with an open book, telling you this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to support. I'll be on the progressive side of the House where we support change for ordinary folks, teachers and janitors and nurses and so on. I will be able to work with those members of Congress who are of the same opinion that we need to do better for our constituents. And I'm not going to be the only one because I do know I'm already talking to folks in the House who support the same progressive ideas as I do. So, one voice, sometimes Martin Luther King did say that the arc of the moral universe might be long, but it bent towards justice. And I say this because just my one voice can rally 200 more voices to bring about a change. And we're going to see that in this election. And I wouldn't be too surprised if that actually reflects itself in the House of Representatives.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot, candidate for Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we wrap up this edition of Voices of Africa. You can go to our website, www.chatnightafrica.net. I want to thank Roger, who is my producer in Lagos, Nigeria. He's late there now in Africa, yet he stayed up because he understands the importance, the impact of Chat Night Africa. Thank you. You are my right-hand man, and you never fail me. You never fail the viewers of Chat Night Africa. Thank you again, and good luck in your campaign for Congress, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that has been Mr. Gabriel Njinimbot. This interview is also on YouTube. You see the scroller under the screen. You can go to YouTube. You'll find this interview. It's on Facebook. It's on the internet. Please share, talk about it. Put in your WhatsApp groups if you like this guy who has shown exceptional brilliance on my broadcast today. We've lined up exceptionally exhilarating broadcast on Chat Night Africa. You don't want to miss what's coming on Friday next week. It will be tornadic, to say the least. Thank you again for watching. My name is Divine Chamukong. I'd like to wish all of you a wonderful evening. And that has been...
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming to get down. I'm coming to dance, We're gonna dance, we're gonna get down, we're gonna party hardy, we're gonna boogie, and when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here, it's dynamite. I'm ready. I'm coming back.